Good day. Thank you for joining our session this afternoon. In this 20-minute webinar, Paige Elkins will show how you can use Spinifex IT's Easy Reporter solution to fulfill the headcount reports required by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. As the end of September draws closer, we'd like to show you how you can easily use Spinifex IT's Easy Reporter solution to easily generate reports based on job categories and pay bands with respect to race, gender, and ethnicity. A copy of this webinar will be uploaded into our customer care portal so you can watch it on demand. Now, let's start. Paige, the floor is yours.
Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be discussing how to meet the EEO1 Component 2 reporting requirements using Easy Reporter. Now, if you're watching this webinar, you are probably already aware of what the new EEO1 Component 2 reporting is all about, and you likely are looking for a solution so that you can meet the upcoming September 30th deadline. But just to summarize for you, here are the key things to know. Private employers with 100 or more employees, as well as federal contractors with 50 or more, have long been required to submit annual employer information reports, called the EEO1 reports, to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, showing the number of their employees by job category, race, sex, and ethnicity. The EEOC refers to this as Component 1 data. Now, in 2016, the Obama administration proposed changes to also include pay data and number of hours worked along with the headcount data. Before the proposal was implemented, it went through a stay issued by the Office of Management and Budget, followed by a court case challenging the stay, with end result that the employers have now been ordered to provide this additional data, called Component 2, for 2 calendar years, 2017 and 2018, with both years' reports due September 30th of 2019. So now that you understand the requirements, my goal today is to show you some sample reports we have built here internally, allowing you to dig into the particular ways in which we design the reports. Also, even though we don't have a software release coming out now in which to add these reports as pre-delivered content, for any of you watching this webinar, if you would like to have a download of the reports that I show you, all you need to do is email me after the webinar. One caveat, the 2 reports I'm going to show you should provide the data you need, but we just haven't had the opportunity to build out an interface file that you can simply upload to the EEOC's website. Would love to have been able to deliver that to you as well, but given the time crunch, I didn't want to hold up any longer. So my hope is that the reports I'm going to illustrate will at least be a good starting point for you. So let's log in and take a look. So I'm going to navigate over here to my SAP system. I'm already in Easy Reporter, and I'm going to show you a couple of reports. There's 2 of them. One of them is called hours worked, and the other one is the head count. So let's look at one of those. We'll pull up the employee count one first. You'll notice there are instructions on the info tab, as always. As it says, it does mention that you're going to want to run this report over a date range of January 1 to December 31st so that you capture the W-2 earnings that are required in order to place the people into the pay bands. It also points out on the information tab that those pay bands are hard-coded into a mapping in the report. As far as we know, those don't need to change, but if it comes up in a future year that the EEOC decides to have employers submit for 2019, 2020, and they decide to also change the pay bands associated, you would have to change the pay bands that are mapped into this report, and I'll show you where that mapping is in just a moment. So that's a little bit about what you see on the information tab. Now let's go into edit mode. And let me show you how we built this report so you'll have some ideas that perhaps you'll want to try on your own, or at least if you ask me for the templates, you'll kind of know where to go looking. So on tab 2, let me point out some things to you. Key fields for both of these reports, of course, include gender, and then we have 3 ethnicity related fields, all coming from info type 77. So if I double click on those, you can see one of them is the field ETHEN. Then we have RACO1 and RACO2 for the second one. So those are coming from info type 77. And we have gender, which of course is on info type 2, as well as it's in just our regular employee data folder that we have over here under master data. And then you will notice for this particular report, we have count columns, employee count columns, as those are found, of course, over here under employee data. And we have employee count columns as something that's pre-configured for you to use on your reports. So we've dragged a lot of employee count columns over here, and each one of them is described by a gender and an ethnicity combination. So you have male, you have female for each one of the ethnicity breakdowns. And the way these are working, if I pick any one of these, if I go into the field settings, you will see it's just counting each employee as one. Column selection, we're not doing anything different there. We even left it on no gender selection, although you're going to see the gender does get filtered out. And that actually occurs in the column filter. Let me open this up a little bit. Each one of these fields has multiple filters attached to the column, starting with, of course, well, hang on, I need to go back to this one. There we go, the top one on gender. And then we have some sub-filters that are looking at those ethnicity fields that we have up in the report up here. There are codes associated with those. You, of course, can go to info type 77 and figure out what each one of these is, like what is an R5. We've already done that for you by going ahead and doing all this filtering to sort it all out. So multiple fields based on those gender, ethnicity combinations, saying the column filters are the key part there that you would want to look at. Let's see, we also have on this report a W2, a hidden column, W2 box 1. That is actually pulling the result for wage type /701, and it is pulling it from the RT table. And the way you want to run this report, therefore, like I mentioned in the instructions, January 1 to December 31, so that you get a full year's worth of RT results for wage type /701. Now, those of you that are savvy with taxes in SAP, you know that /701 is not just federal W-2 amount. It's also going to pick up any state or local taxes that also accumulate in /701. So in order to make this report only pull the federal amount, there is a column filter on that column as well. And it's looking at tax level and only pulling those where the level is A, because A is the federal level. So tax level obviously is another field that's on the report. It is a hidden field right here, and it comes from inside of your payroll results. Let me just show you where that is, payroll results. If you go into the cluster tables, you actually want to go into the country cluster tables and pick the US. So I'm going to scroll down here under country cluster tables and go to the United States. And I would then look into the US tax folder, which is the very first folder under the US. And inside of that would have been the field for tax level that I dragged onto this report. So that's another key couple of fields that are needed to be able to build those pay bands that are required for this component to reporting. And so that kind of takes me up to the sort and subtotal columns. So you can see we've pretty much covered the various fields that you have. But then let's look up here under sort and subtotal. First of all, job category. Job category is a PD field. It is in the PD infotype 1610. Let me just pull that up over here. We're going to go this time into org management. And I'm going to go to PD infotype data, open up that folder, and look for the PD infotype 1610. So it is down here, US job attributes. So from there, the job category was dragged onto the report. A couple things to know when you're setting it up. Under field settings, you can point this infotype to be based on either the position or other objects such as job. Different organizations can handle this differently. Your infotype 1610s, might be attached to position rather than job. So you would want to check that setting and make sure that you're pulling it correctly for your organization. I think job is more likely where you're going to find that attached, but you will want to look into that on the job category. And then the other key sort and subtotal level here is the pay band. And those are in the component 2 instructions where it says we have these pay ranges, annual pay ranges, and we want the people categorized according to those. So the way we have handled it here in this report, it's a mapping field. And if I go into the field settings on that mapping field, you can see these are the pay bands defined in those instructions. And we literally are just saying, look at that W-2 box 1 amount. And if it's between the high and the low ranges, then the mapping value is actually a description of that range. Basically, those same numbers separated with a hyphen. So that's how we set up the pay bands, and then they are in the sort and subtotal column underneath job category, which will allow you to get the different numbers that you are needing for this particular report. I actually could run a little test of this for you. Let's run a sample of the year 2017, a variant that I already have out here. You can see I have 1/1/2017 to 12/31/2017. Definitely want all pay runs. I don't want to miss my off cycles by only picking the regular. So I have all pay runs. I am basing it on pay date for the payroll results. I could see it going either way, pay date versus end date. Pay date is what makes sense to me. Employee selection, I just have a payroll area for our US employees, so I have that in there. And then let's run this. I think it will run fairly quickly. Let me see if I have my job splinter turned on. I will put that in there as well, just to make it run a little bit quicker. So let me execute that for you so you can get an idea of what the output looks like. All right, so there goes my splitter into the 10 jobs. This should be pretty quick at finishing up, I believe. And here we go. Results should be coming. All right, so there's what we have. So we have by job category. So that was the value from that PD infotype I mentioned to you. By job category, by pay band. So here we have one of the pay bands. Then each of the categories that was based on gender plus ethnicity data, the count. Male, female, etc., all the way across the page for each of those categories you saw. And then, of course, we have a totals column out here that we added to the report. All right, so that's the headcount version, being able to give you by job type, by ethnicity, gender, and then those new pay bands that are required with the component 2. Now I'm going to flip over to the other report, which is the one that is very, very similar, but instead of doing an employee count, it is doing hours worked. So let me show you that as well as soon as this report closes up. So here is the second report. It has instructions very similar to what you saw on the other report. I'll go ahead and select a variant while we're here, and then let's go into edit mode and talk through this report just a bit. So what you will see in the sort and subtotal, the same values we had before. The job category, the pay band, done exactly the same way. W-2 box 1 is on there exactly the same, /701 based on tax level equal to A in the column filter. Here's tax level, came from the US tax cluster table. Gender, of course, the ethnicity fields that we pulled in from infotype 77. And then remember all those splits based on gender plus ethnicity. You saw those on the prior report, but they weren't payroll results columns. They were count columns, employee count columns. They were head count columns. This time it's payroll results. So all of these payroll results, and if I open up any one of these, what you'll want to notice is, of course, it's reporting hours. It's not a dollar amount because this is going to be the hours worked. So it's pulling hours. It's pulling it from the RT table, which is my top button here. Column selection, I'm pulling the hours based on this wage type /5UT. Now this is a standard wage type produced by the BSI tax calculation engine. It would not be impossible for your organization to be doing something differently and not utilizing /5UT, but I would imagine 99% chance that you are using and populating /5UT based on the standard rules inside of what the BSI tax engine does. So you should have a value in your cluster results, your RT table of a wage type /5UT, which calculates the hours worked for that person's particular pay run. So that's what we're pulling in here to do the hours work /5UT, the hours, not a dollar amount, but the hours associated with it. Other than that, this report is very, very similar to the one I just ran. That's really the only difference. If I go run it, just so you can see what it looks like, let's run this sample here. We'll run it full screen this time. We will have the same type of format in terms of it's going to be by job category. Within that, it's going to have those pay bands based on the W-2 wages. And then inside of that, we're going to see for each one of those gender, ethnicity combinations, the hours worked. And so that's what we have here. Job category, pay band. They all fell into this particular pay band. Oh, and I actually picked a category where there were no people. So if we were to pick like this one, office and clerical, again, it's all in our lower pay band. Hispanic females, 5,200 hours worked. So this should give you the numbers that you need to complete that portion of the grid that's required for the component 2. Again, I wish we could have had time to build out an interface file that would put both of these two reports together into one file that's in the right format to upload to the EEOC. Just we're not able to do that in the short time frame that we had. But at any rate, I'm hoping that this has been somewhat helpful to you. So that does bring us to the conclusion of the webinar. Now do notice my email address is on here, pelkins@spinfxit.com. And as I mentioned, if you would like to be able to upload these two reports that I just illustrated into your own system, I would be happy to send you a download of them. It would at least maybe give you the opportunity to do a little bit more playing to see if they're going to work for you. So again, thanks for watching, everyone, and we will talk with you later.
Thank you for joining our webinar. If you have any questions or if you need further assistance, please let us know by filing a support ticket through our customer care portal. Will you be joining Success Connect Las Vegas this year? Come see SpinFX IT and discover how you can bring your employees' experience to the next dimension. Visit us at booth G13, or join our breakout session on September 17th at 2:45 p.m. Catch Stephen Gallo and discover brand new ways to generate your employee documents through smart workflows and automations. Find out more about Strato Documents by SpinFX IT. We hope to see you there.